up in this hour, we're going to play some clips of people talking about multiple shooters, smoke bombs or tear gas coming from different sides, someone else letting the shooter in. Now we've seen who the media is saying is the shooter with Bozo the clown hair. Everybody said that was men with black masks on who looked like police officers. That's what the eyewitnesses all over local news said. But now he comes into court today not knowing who he is, with all these facial tics, eyes wide open, clearly bombed out of his brain. And I hope someday they don't commit a mass shooting and then just roll me out and I suddenly can't talk and nobody asked, is he drugged? Nobody asked, hey, maybe somebody else did it. Maybe he's mentally ill. I mean, I could go commit a crime, get a homeless person who's mentally ill in the car with me. They're all over Austin, where I live, thrown out of mental institutions. And then put a bunch of weapons in the car, commit a crime, and then let the homeless person take the blame. And that's what Operation Northwoods, right here in my hot little hand from the National Security Archive. This is at the Library of Congress. You can just look up PDF of National Security Archive. And it talks about how to commit mass shootings and then how to even frame patsies. And who do they recommend? In the Gladio documents. This just talks about framing patsies. Mentally ill people, people with criminal records you just frame. And now we got a guy who can't talk. The police said he was flopping around the last 2 days, screaming and spitting at everyone, screaming, I'm the Joker, I'm the Joker. Now he can't talk and is smiling and laughing and then obviously snapping in and out of things. And, of course, he's on a bunch of psychotropic drugs, which can make you do this on your own. Just like Sergeant Bales, who went over there and killed 19 people in Afghanistan. And they're going to try to put him on trial. He's not mentally ill. He's going to go to the electric chair, I guess. Now, here's the deal. We are collating all these clips right now. The admissions, even Glenn Beck covering it a year and a half ago, that top White House advisors in memos and in restricted memos only to top donors, like when Obama's privately with a bunch of donors that give him $1 million or whatever, billionaires and people, he says, yeah, don't worry, we're going to get these bitter clingers that cling to their Bibles and guns. We're going to get them. Well, to their people, and Paul Watson's doing an article on this right now because it hit me this morning, they said a new Oklahoma City, a new 9/11 or some big event will let Obama reconnect with the public and be seen as a hero. By the way, you watch. The polls aren't up yet, but he went to Colorado yesterday and today. I'm guaranteeing you'll see tomorrow. They'll be out by tomorrow, maybe even tonight. I predict 10.5 bounce in an index of polls. Some will be higher. I predict a 10-point bounce for Obama. Watch. Now, in his office, Aaron Dykes is in there. He's found clips of the Democratic operatives bragging on Chris Matthews after the Gifford shooting that this is going to help Obama reconnect and this is going to help shut up the birthers. Now, remember, you got Robert Shapiro on the Financial Times of London saying, we need a new Oklahoma City or 9/11. If he doesn't get that, he's not going to win. They come 1 inch from saying they'll stage one. They just say, man, this would sure be nice. That's why last night I thought, and this morning it really hit me even stronger, we had to get the makers of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995, on the show because this is the only modern film exposing the false flag. And just like Fast and Furious, they've admitted Fast and Furious was done to blame the Second Amendment. CBS, ABC, I've read those headlines. They're on air. You can look it up. But other than that, this is the most proven false flag where we've got the cops, the eyewitnesses, the people that worked in the building. I mean, we know who did it. We know how they did it. The film is so important. And guess what? It's the very same crew now running Obama. So that's why I'm saying we've got to look at this from the perspective of who's the number one suspect. If somebody who looks like they're 65 years old with a long gray beard and blue eyes robs a bank, the police know to see are there any bank robbers paroled that fit this description, because they normally have priors. And they go, you bet. You know, John Doe got released 2 months ago. This is his MO. He looks just like it. They try to go find where he is. They discover where he's at. They get a search warrant. They bust in. They find the money right there. You go after people who do this over and over again. And let me tell you who does it over and over again. I covered this for 2 hours on the Sunday radio show. These people do. Okay? And not just our government. Other governments do this over and over again. Operation Gladio included not just blowing up bus stations and school buses and train stations. This has been declassified by the Italian government and others. They would shoot up movie theaters and blame it on their political enemy, and even grab a communist or somebody they didn't like and drug them up, put them on trial, put them in prison, or kill them. So, again, I've seen this over and over again. I thought I'd get 2 gentlemen on because specifically they've been warning on my show and their own radio show and everywhere, look for this. And I remember, and so this is homework for them because I know they're busy, but I'm even more busy. They've been on probably 6, 7 times the last 6 months since their film came out. Well, where we said, get the film, they're going to stage new terror attacks to get the UN treaty passed, the rest of it to put TSA on the streets. And we all talked about what type of attack, and we all said highways, police stations, federal centers that have daycare centers because they like to kill kids, that gets more effect, movie theaters, shopping malls. You know, I'm so busy, I don't have time to go back to 6, 7, 8 interviews and find all the places we said that, but we did. So that's powerful to get people's attention. We're not just saying this now. We said this before. Now, I'm going to go to Chris Emery and Holland van der Nieuwenhof. They join us. Van der Nieuwenhof is a native of Oklahoma, formerly served U.S. Marine Corps as a rifle squad leader. His broadcasting career started in 07 as co-host of Radio Free Oklahoma, and later as co-host of the Free Mind Report, heard on a bunch of stations. Holland is also a writer and producer of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City 95, and the first full-length documentary examining the Oklahoma City bombing in the light of the new and suppressed evidence that proves the official story is a myth. Available at InfoWarsShop.com, I should add. I said, get the film out, it'll save lives. It may stop them from staging new attacks, or it'll have people informed who will be watching when it happens, like our witnesses that were on the flight that saw the government get Mutalib on the plane, the underwear bomber. Chris Emery is producer of Noble Lie as well, and has been working for decades to expose the globalist. And they join us right now. It's the winner of a bunch of film festivals, and the Vegas Indie finalist, just a whole winner, a Bare Bones Festival, also official selection, San Antonio Film Festival, and a bunch of others. They join us right now. Out of the gates, I want to go to Holland first. Holland, I haven't even asked your opinion. I had Chris call you 8 o'clock last night, got you set up for the show. I don't know your view on this. I haven't heard what you've said about it, so I want to hear fresh. Give me your take on what you think's going on here.
Well, thank you, Alex, for having us on again. And when this event happened, this horrible event, I reserved judgment. I don't like to leap to judgment, but I must report that all indications that are at the very least, that many things are very fishy about this incident, and I do think that most likely it was a false flag attack. The timing could not be better for those trying to push a gun control agenda. They're trying to sign a major gun control treaty next week. There are so many correlations between this attack and the Tucson shooting of last year, the Jared Lee Loughner case, and I have been actually looking into that case a lot lately. Some of the work of Stephanie Sledge at the governmentrag.com. She's done some excellent work, and I do think that this probably is a false flag attack.
Well, I mean, I even forgot that. We've got to get Wayne Madsen on immediately. Wayne Madsen told me first about stuff that later came out. And, of course, he's former with the National Security Agency. He talked to a high-level federal informant that said that Rolls and Giffords, who were both pro-gun, were working on exposing Fast and Furious, and that definitely the shooter there was programmed Jared Loughner.
Oh, yes. Loughner bore all the hallmarks of an MK Ultra patsy, and that's what we're looking at these days. is this evolution of the methodology for executing these crimes and getting patsies involved in mind control, the use of psychotropic drugs, erasing memories, inducing psychotic behavior, especially with the case of this latest suspect named Holmes. Apparently there is no creepy backstory to this guy. Unlike Loeffner, there were a lot of people who came out to say that he was a really creepy, scary guy. It turns out later that a lot of those sound bites were probably faked anyway. But with this kid, there seems to be no creepy backstory. Just out of the blue, he flips out and decides to become the Joker and kill at least a dozen people. And also he was serving under a National Institute of Health grant and a neuroscience division of the university, and the NIH has been long implicated firsthand.
Oh yeah, they use these programs under
experiments.
They use these under Ewing Cameron to actually kidnap test subjects and use them for mind control. I mean, he's right in the middle of a Department of Defense funded program in mind control sciences.
Yes, and we're already seeing, like you've reported, the divergent eyewitness accounts. Now, when I look at the primary purpose of A Noble Lie, and the real reason we wanted to get it out, was not just to expose the Oklahoma City bombing. Obviously, that was the primary reason.
Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. Continue with the points you're making after the last 6-7 years. I know Chris Emery even more immersed in studying false flags and how they work. You know, it's hard for people that don't spend all their time studying this, like I've been doing for 17 years, to just hear us say, oh yeah, it's got the earmarks. Folks, when we say it's got the earmarks, I mean, it's got the earmarks. I wish this guy was a lone nut, but now he's clearly drugged out of his mind on television, and they're just going to tell us open and shut case. We'd be crazy to believe a government that's been caught running so many other false flags.
Exactly. I mean, this is not the world I want to live in. I'd much rather be doing other things with my time, but I'm not going to deny reality. And the fact is that this government has time and time again, as many governments around the world, engaged in the false flag methodology that has cost innocent lives in order to enact a political agenda. This is a basic 101 politics, geopolitics 101. We've seen it time and time again. You referenced Operation Northwoods earlier. Well, they actually talked about shooting American citizens on the streets of America to provoke a war with Cuba. That was from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That was approved by the Secretary of Defense. That was approved by the political structure of the day up until JFK shot it down. So it's not unheard of at all, and they've done it before. Operation Gladio, you were referencing. The Italian Senate actually indicted the CIA for its role in the Bologna bus station bombing that cost 89 lives. Those were innocent people in order to enact a strategy of tension to keep people scared, keep them on edge, and make them vote for the politically convenient party, convenient to the interests of the CIA.
And now we have 3 memos.
And in this case, and like I said before, is that we made a noble lie so we could wake people up to the fact of what this government was capable of and what they would do in the future. And we referenced a Clinton cabinet official, Robert Shapiro, who was in the government during the Oklahoma City bombing, who later opined in an editorial that Obama needed another Oklahoma City or 9/11. Now, this guy just wasn't an observer, perhaps making a callous remark. He was in the government when the bombing happened. He saw exactly how they benefited, and he was saying the Obama administration needed another mass murder to justify election and a political agenda.
And he actually said that quote, and that's what's frustrating. We then have all these other fundraising memos where they said, don't worry, a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, and they're going to get the blame. I mean, that right there, they are so arrogant, and then this magically happens right as they, in the last 6 months, have been delivering the TSA kits for checkpoints all over the highway. We've talked to high-level Department of Transportation whistleblowers that say they're getting ready in the next few months to roll this out, and then right on time this starts. If we start seeing more of these, then we know it's a setup.
And Fast and Furious. One of the, I guess you could say, good benefits of Fast and Furious was that it was unlikely that Obama was going to be able to get gun control legislation passed because of the blowback from Fast and Furious. It was simply ridiculous that the federal government is asking for restrictions on our gun use when the biggest gun runner in the past decade is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms under Operation Gunwalker, Fast and Furious.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment.
Now that's all blown out of the water.
And they did it to blame the Second Amendment. CBS News broke that almost a year ago. Let's go to Chris Emery. We're about to go to break, but Chris, what's your first look on this, having 3 or 4 days to look at it?
First of all, I want to extend my condolences to the victims' family members and survivors. That's one thing that we did immediately when we studied the Oklahoma City case. People that lost their lives, a very sacred loss. Second thing is, I'm going to suggest to every single one of these family members, hire an attorney, get a completely independent view of what's going on here, because I can guarantee you that you're being lied to. I say that as a filmmaker that looks at the facts. Holland can back me up on this. There are so many cases we reviewed, and this is consistent, and you did an excellent job on Friday and over the weekend reviewing all of these cases that are similar. You cannot believe the federal government anymore. Simple as that. The top dogs that are taking control of this case are going to lie, flat out, bald-faced lie to the family members and have no compunction about doing it. So they have to hire independent forensic experts and independent counsel to make sure that they get the truth on what happened to their loved ones. That's the bottom line. And it's frustrating because we see this happen time and time again, and we've got to get the truth out on this.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, it would be a lot less scary to think he was just a lone Ronald McDonald killer. I forget calling him the Joker, but they're already saying he's the guy and he can't even talk. He's obviously bombed out of his brain. We knew. We'll talk about Jolly and West and mind control when we get back. That's my first question, but I want you to be able to finish, Chris Emery, with all the points I know you've got there you want to go over.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
Your mind causes your
Ladies and gentlemen, it came out in the congressional hearings in 94, 95 that Waco had been a ATF stunt because of Ruby Ridge. They looked bad. Congress was looking at just getting rid of them entirely. So there's film of them in the documentaries about it, like Waco Rules of Engagement, loading up their video cameras going, these are really great kooks. We're going to get some great footage of this to launch their new war against domestic extremists. So they found a group they thought they could demonize. They could have arrested Koresh in town. He went into town every day. They owned an auto repair shop down the street. Instead, they went in there and started a fight with them and then burned the place down. So that blew up in their face. FBI cooked the bomb, trained the drivers in the first World Trade Center attack. Look that up. I mean, this is not our opinion. The Lavon affair being staged by Israel. That was, the plan was to shoot up and blow up movie theaters and places where Westerners were at and bomb their, churches and things. There have been a lot of other events. I went over them yesterday. The point is that when you study this, how did the CIA and MI6 overthrow Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953 in Iran? Look up Operation Ajax. It's at CIA.gov. They don't even hide this. It's declassified. They committed mass shootings of mosque and of crowds of people who didn't like the more secular Mossadegh who wanted to develop Iran. But he wanted to keep part of the oil money for his people. He was the man of the year, Time Magazine, really nice guy, compared to a lot of some of the extremists over there. And who did they say they were going to put in power? The Muslim Brotherhood. They staged attacks claiming Mossadegh had done it against the Muslim Brotherhood type extremists. They were really Shiites. So I guess Muslim Brotherhood's kind of a mixture. The point is, and then they double-crossed them and put the Shah in. And again, mass shootings are one of their favorites to then blame it on who they want. And you've got all these White House memos. In fact, we're going to have them on the nightly news tonight, and then we'll air part of these reports tomorrow. A lot of work goes into all of this. Paul Watson's got a new article coming out very, very soon. The ATF's in trouble putting out videos to their own people saying, watch out, don't report on our crimes. All of this is happening right now. The UN treaty is just a couple weeks away. They could sign it as early next week. And then magically this happens. Are there real mass shootings? Yes. Are there real crazies? Yes. But when you see something like this, notice it happened close to Columbine and Littleton. Total shadow government command base. Department of Defense funded programs going on. I've been in these neuroscience departments. You can't go in half the facility. Even though I might have accidentally got into one once. The point is that it's all about mind control. Because that's what control is all about. Mind war is what they call it. Chris Emery, finishing up your points, continuing here.
I'm going to do a wide shot of this. Just one of your shirts, Alex, says defend freedom. And that's you defend your freedom by finding out the truth, whether it be your loved ones or your neighbors or people that are horrifically murdered in the case of this last week. We base our research on the facts. And like I said, I urge every one of the victims' family members and survivors and their close friends that have the wherewithal, that have the resources to find out what happened last week. You deserve the truth, and you're not going to get it from the controllers from the federal government. I wish I could say differently, but we've gone over literally dozens of cases, big and small, and it's consistent. They will lie to you and have no compunction about doing it. I want to. We just got the issue Rolling Stone magazine out of my P.O. box this weekend. The Making of Dark Knight, 2-page article on here, and it's called Nolan's Reboot. It's basically a review from director Christopher Nolan. Let me read this real quick, just a few sentences. Anyone who's tried telling stories after 9/11 noticed that the real world becomes horrifically fictional. So all of our fictions seem to aspire toward realism. In Nolan's films, Batman is a soldier, and it echoes the whole war on terror. They're the best expression of Batman that's been done so far. This is a line between reality and fiction, and it's becoming crystal clear that who's controlling and who's blurring that line.
That's right. They're blurring it on purpose. They're blurring it on purpose. I've talked to high-level producers. Chris Carter of X-Files, I've talked to his top people. The CIA came to them and said, do an episode where a hijacked jet gets flown into the World Trade Center and the government's really behind it as a way to attack Afghanistan. And they use a drill to make everybody stand down. What do you guys continue along that line of why they're trying to blur reality with fiction? But then also, what do you make of the drill at the university being run, of a local movie theater being attacked by a guy who uses smoke bombs as a distraction?
Well, the whole Batman mythos is about legitimizing covert state operations. It's all about the forces of law and order that are unable to cope with this evil, and they must call upon this man in black to skirt the law and do things that aren't really approved of, but really society needs someone to be behind the scenes doing these covert operations.
He has to use the NSA to spy on everyone.
A product maybe of the Cold War. I need to do my homework on the origins of the Batman comics, but that's certainly what the mythos is being used for today. And we see like the telltale signs, the concurrent drills. One of the signs that that something is fishy is if there's a concurrent intelligence, military, or police operation or drill that simulates the real thing. And now we have a drill being run out of a medical department simulating a mass shooting in Colorado in a theater with bombs being thrown also, almost to a T. And this was the only medical department in the country that was running this kind of drill, and it was just down the road from the theater from where it took place.
And again, Webster Tarpley's written Synthetic Terror, a 300-something page book, 400-page book breaking this down. It's done so that other agencies, if they discover it, you just say it's part of the drill. It's also used to confuse NSA chatter.
Yes, the concurrent operations have several different functions. One, to move assets in place, to cover their butts as they move assets in place. It's under the cover of this drill. And then afterwards, it also is part of the cover-up, because the people involved in executing what they thought was a drill only afterwards may or may not realize that it was actually part of the real thing. And now they're either complicit or they're kept in the dark about their true role. It also aids the cover-up, as in the case of Oklahoma City. After the bombing, a lot of the cops on the scene were being told by their superiors that the bombing was the result of a sting operation that went bad. Of course, this is not part of the official story, but this is what the cops were being told. This was a cover story. The sting operation was to move the assets in place, move the truck in place, get the explosives inside the building. and then afterwards it's part of the cover-up. Well, now you're going to interfere with justice if you blow the whistle on the sting operation. So it has a lot of different components, and it worked, and that's what they use. They use what works. You see the same methodology.
No, that's right. It's totally pathological
because it's effective.
Now let's expand. We also have the FBI flyer that was put out about theaters being attacked. This was put out in June, that theaters were going to be attacked by Al-Qaeda there in the Colorado area, and that there'd be mass shootings in them. They pulled the flyer once this shooting happened. They don't normally do that. Why don't they want to sing that flyer?
Well, if this was legit, Alex, they would actually be waving the flyer around and taking credit for warning the American people about this threat. The fact that they pulled that flyer, which I just learned from you, means that they have something to hide. And they don't want us knowing that they were warning that they actually had this plan underway. Perhaps they were picking up chatter and then it was covered up. I don't know. But the fact that they pulled that flyer means that there was something to hide, definitely.
Now, I know we have a lot of new listeners tuning in every millisecond on AM and FMs across the country. Explain to people why you do a false flag. I mean, they never do these unless there's a key piece of legislation like omnibus crime bill they couldn't pass, or assault weapons ban they can't pass, or a UN treaty where they're like 2 votes short in the Senate, and now there's all this pressure. Explain the motive for false flags, and then I want to get into mind control.
Exactly. Well, the unfortunate consequence of people waking up to the truth is that when people start to resist an agenda and they can't get it passed by conventional political means, they will get desperate and they will shed blood. They have done this time and time again. They did it in Oklahoma City. The timing of the Oklahoma City bombing was 2 years after Waco. Waco, like you said, happened exactly because of Ruby Ridge. The criticism the ATF and federal law enforcement was facing over their unconstitutional abuses and infringement on individual rights and the atrocities they were committing, that was all washed away with Oklahoma City, which happened 2 years the day after Waco. And then we look at this attack, which happens a week before a controversial gun ban treaty is going to be voted upon, at the same time that Fast and Furious has really taken the wind out of the sails of the gun control agenda. They needed something to push it over the top. Fast and Furious had really blown up in their face. There was a lot of blowback, and the unfortunate consequences of us waking up, people waking up and fighting back, is that they get desperate and they pull these aces out of their sleeves and they shed blood. They
want to be able to pose as heroes and have the moral authority, and they're the mommy and the daddy, we're the bad children. But don't worry, they're going to keep us safe now with more highway checkpoints and pat-downs at movie theaters and shopping malls. All of this is coming. And ladies and gentlemen, you cannot have pat-downs for evil. There is always going to be evil out there. The answer is guns. I want to show people a brief clip if they're watching on TV. If not, just go to Infowars.com. And there's an article there from Natural News by our own Mike Adams. And he shows, of course, that video from earlier last week of the old man in the internet cafe, and they don't want people thinking like this and understanding that the answer to people coming at you with guns is that you have a gun. And here he is when 2 thugs come in with their mask on. He comes in and is able to stop them. Let's go ahead and roll that video. And then we can, after that, we can also direct people. A patron at Palm's Internet Cafe shot 2 robbers. July 13th. The suspects survived and were arrested. And they come in, one with a baseball bat, one with a handgun. They come in to rob everybody. Everybody's got to watch this video and get it out to everybody they know. And then a senior citizen in the back bam, shoots him and chases him out of the building. And again, it's already scrolled off the top news stories on Infowars. So I'm going to have it reposted up there so everybody can see it. It's also at our Twitter, twitter.com/RealAlexJones. Says the media doesn't want you to know how the massacre could have been stopped. The link to the video is right there, twitter.com/RealAlexJones. Go there, get it out to everybody you know with the article. So again, getting back into mind control, what about McVeigh and mind control? They think we're so stupid. His doctor was Jolly and West. Tell us about that, Chris Emery.
He's what we consider the Prince of Darkness, one of the worst mind control, well, as far as most competent, but one of the worst on a civil level. I believe he had Sirhan Sirhan, Patty Hearst, and Jack Ruby as clients.
Exactly. After when Lee Harvey Oswald was shot a couple days after being blamed for the assassination of JFK, they had to come up with a new way of neutralizing these patsies without making it obvious that they were shooting a witness. Sirhan was demonstrably a mind control victim. I mean, his own psychiatrist testified to this. Several psychiatrists testified to the fact that this man is controlled by other parties. And his doctor was Dr. Jolly and West, who actually got his start at the University of Oklahoma and had to leave after killing an elephant with LSD under MKUltra funding. He later went to UCLA. He worked on the Sirhan case, the Patty Hearst case, and we know now that the SLA, the Symbionese Liberation Army, which kidnapped Patty Hearst and brainwashed her, started out of the Vacaville Medical Facility a mind control MKUltra medical experiment. That is proven. And so Dr. Jolly West worked on that. He later consulted and worked on the Jonestown case, where 900 people were killed under questionable circumstances. Jim Jones had a lot of CIA ties. They found tons of psychotropic drugs on the premises there that were being used to control these people. The whole embassy there in Guyana was a CIA substation. There was no diplomatic personnel at all. So it was obvious that there was some kind of CIA operation going on with that. Dr. Jolly West worked on that. He later worked on Waco with the FBI, advising them on how to treat the Davidians. We saw how that turned out. Then after the catastrophic fire, Dr. Jolly West is the go-to man for the media, explaining to the American people why the Davidians decided to kill themselves, which of course was a lie. They were murdered by the FBI. After the bombing, immediately after the bombing, even before he was brought on to be the doctor for Tim McVeigh, Dr. Jolly West was flown here from California and actually mentioned by name by Vice President Al Gore in a speech as soon as he got to Oklahoma City as coming here to treat the victims. But that's not all Jolly West did here. He was actually treating the first responders and fixing inconvenient memories. We know this for a fact. We have talked to first responders who were brought to federal mental health facilities and told to change their minds about the bombs they had seen inside the building, that they had actually come from.
That happened a bunch on 9/11.
Dr. Jolly West was working on that.
That happened in 9/11 at the Pentagon. They would take people and say, you need to go to the hospital because of what you saw, and then they would black out. Well, they've got, again, Devil's Breath, Halcyon, all of these. But again, he's in congressional testimony as the second most famous mind control doctor in world history, and then he's McVeigh's doctor, and nobody in the media points this out. And now the new Joker guy, Holmes, is obviously bombed out of his brain right now, and no one's going to talk about that.
Exactly. And after McVeigh was incarcerated, Dr. Jolly West actually had his protege, Dr. John Smith, be Tim McVeigh's direct psychologist from day to day. And Dr. John Smith, who was Tim McVeigh's psychologist or psychiatrist, later turned out a couple years later to be chief of psychiatry at Guantanamo Bay, which we know and has been proven is a mind control laboratory.
Oh, let's stop. Even mainstream.
In the past couple of weeks that they're shipping drugs to Guantanamo Bay to treat these prisoners, and they are known mind control psychotropic agents.
Oh, I was about to stop you.
See the MK angle because it is successful and it works, and you give these elite power controllers anything, and they definitely go with what works and what's effective.
Yeah, we've got to go to break here. I don't want to come back and give most of the final segment to Chris Emery, but it's actually been in mainstream news that they have a CIA mind control base, psychiatric base within X-ray, where they're, quote, testing drugs on controlling people, and then they release them out of there. The suicide bomber last week in Europe was an alumni of that program. I mean, how obvious does this have to get? Unbelievable. Sick of the globalist, eugenicist, control freaks adding poison to your water and laughing as you get sick and die? Start purifying your water with ProPure. My friends, I've done a lot of research, and the best gravity filter out there, bar none, is ProPure, and it's available discounted at Infowars.com. Its filters are silver impregnated to prevent bacterial growth. There's no priming required. It's NSF 42 certified. Optional fluoride filters can reduce fluoride up to 95%. Easy to set up and use. Doesn't require electricity. Purify water from lakes, streams, ponds, and wells. This filter system leaves in beneficial minerals, which is key. Save money by not buying bottled water and avoid BPA that leaches from the plastic. ProPure is the best gravity-fed filter out there. It's what my family uses. Infowars.com already has the lowest price on ProPure, but if you add the promo code WATER at checkout, you get an additional 10% off at Infowars.com. You can also call to order 888-253-3139. Here's why it's bad. I wish the evidence didn't point towards a staged event, but it's a crew that's done it with Oklahoma City and Fast and Furious. It fits their MO. It's in an area where they do it. The suspect fits all the earmarks, and I mean chillingly so. Drooling up there and giggling and snickering out of his mind, drugged up on, Lucky Charms or whatever. And then you've got the fact that they want our guns and are going for them, and the UN treaty. And the fact that it's going to boost Obama's approval ratings. Just watch. I pray that he's a lone nutcase, but the open and shut way they're doing it, the way they're never giving any details, the way they're acting real suspicious, all of this really stinks to high heaven. Chris Emery, we've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left in this interview, but I'm going to have you guys back later this week to talk more about it. It's so important because you've been so close to this. But your final comments in this hour, Chris. Hold on, we don't have you faded up yet. Start over.
I look at it from the filmmaker's point of view. You have to really sweep away all of the emotion and the melodrama and so forth. And I know to some people that might sound cold, but you have to look at the facts for what they are. And immediately you get the heat of the moment information, who the witnesses were, how many perps were involved. Obviously, we've got witnesses saying there were more than one person, ordnance coming from different sides of the theater. You've got to collect the facts as soon as you can. Then you hire that independent set of investigators to look at it. And here we've got the memorial in Oklahoma City. They're putting the flags at half staff. Well, on a respect basis, that's fine, but they're taking this melodrama, taking it to the next step and saying, hey, and the cruel irony is that we had a government operatives do this in Oklahoma City, and it looks, like you said, all the earmarks, a government operative doing this in Colorado, and they're throwing it right back in our face. And that's absolutely disgusting. It's unacceptable, and we've got to take a stand. We're not idiots. And let's not give the government a reason to believe that we are.
Look, if you've got a group caught doing something over and over again, we would be idiots, as you say, if we didn't look at them as the #1 suspects. Comments on that, Holland?
Yes, I mean, the #1 suspect, look at who benefits. It certainly isn't the American people. The only beneficiary of this attack is the federal government and those who are pushing for gun control. The timing is uncanny. It cannot be denied that this benefits the government. And whenever people are attacked or they're scared, there's a psychological reaction. They cling to authority and they lash out at outsiders. And in this case, I do believe you're right, Alex, that Obama's poll numbers are going to rise. And the fact the designated outsider in this case is guns. We're already seeing the articles. I've already seen 3 or 4, and I haven't really been looking. I've just been floating around the internet, and they're popping up of articles now pushing for gun control because of this shooting. And frankly, I hate to say it, but I've been but dreading when something like this would happen. And we see the convergence of events.
Oh, yeah,
we've got furious. The gun ban treaty, it cannot be denied.
Well, yeah, we've got all these people all over the news. Even Rupert Murdoch is saying time to restrict the guns. That's up at Infowars.com. He said that on his Twitter. But look, Chertoff wants pre-crime spies everywhere. This is an article at Infowars.com by Kurt Nemo. And he says, see something, say something, spies everywhere. Well, that's the new rollout. TSA already has the PSAs made, showing them in the malls and on the highways, and now they're rolling out. It's the rollout, just like the underwear bomber happened 1 week before the machines were set to go in. They claim they ordered them that week. They ordered them a year before. It took that long to build them. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.